Hey, what's up, everybody? Wall Street Jesus here. Tuesday strategy session. Forgot the little ring we gave it. Talk about the markets, and damn, I'm not gonna lie to you. If you're trading individual names right now, this is one tricky son of a bastard. This market, and I mean the rotation out there, constant rotation. And we'll talk a little bit about how it sneaks up on you. And if you fall asleep behind the wheel for a couple days, you miss a big bulk of the move. And that's why I think, a lot of us like to take stabs at these names that are laying down on the concrete floor before they even show signs of squeezing, because they can look like Boeing. And the issue is we're still seeing sweeper activity. As a matter of fact, was it yesterday? Was it Friday? You guys probably remember better than I do at this point. My mind's shot. But there was a decent amount of sweeper activity for Boeing, you know, up here, late in the move here. And you had this nice squeeze off the bottom, little sideways action, off a nine here, just a couple day breather, and then another move higher. So, listen, if you don't, it was Friday, right? Friday. If See, I'm not the biggest fan of chasing. You guys know that. You guys are a lot better than at that game than I am. So I like to, look as these names start to come out of consolidation. But if you blink, or if you kind of don't take some flow serious on the first signs of rotation, you're going to miss a big portion of this move because things happen so quick. And now we're already at the point where I'm trying to figure out, if they come out of this stuff, where they may be headed next. All right. But I mean, basically, it's what we've been talking about for the last couple of webinars now, quite a few webinars, where it's rotation out there. The good news is that this may be, okay, could be very possible. You're not going to hear it from the bears out there, but this could be our seasonally September correction that's going on. All right, I remember in 2016, there was something similar to this. Rather than the markets correcting as a whole, they held the major indices up, okay, and underneath the hood, there was like a bear market tornado that went from sector to sector to sector and was kicking the living piss out of things. All right, and we saw it today in, some tech. All right, some of the hot growth software names. Remember that was at a time the only group they were buying. So yeah, AMD, exactly, things. And Alex, the truth of the matter is, eventually these things have to, they have to cool off, right? I mean, we were saying it before, half this run, right? Halfway up this ladder, we were saying this thing's got to be exhausted by now. And then coincidentally, she catches a nice niner right here at the top, and that's all she needed for the spill. But you want to see that, okay? You want to see names like this eventually come in, some money comes out of it, and go into things that are better set up, better on a risk reward scale. All right. It's been I don't know if the word's gradual either. Again, we were talking about this, so it sounds familiar. I wouldn't say a gradual rotation. If I could have my wish, I wish they were a little more aggressive in the names they're going into. Okay. And what I mean by that is this: when they started buying Johnson and Johnson, we started to see these small sweepers pop up. And Johnson and Johnson, again, is not a name you're really, you're looking to trade. So it's almost like you got to see enough action to get convinced, right? It almost forces you to take a look at the name. That's why I suggest, you see sweeper activity and you're bored out of your mind intraday, look at these names anyway, could be something you're not paying attention to. But Johnson & Johnson started off with small sweeper activity, then a little more, then a little more, and then it snowballed into something bigger. And now you could see here, okay, as money's been rotating out of some other stuff, you pull up a chart of a lot of these big pharma healthcare names, and the majority of them look like this. All right. The Bristol Myers, right? The Lilly, we talked about all these names. The Pfizer, look at this. This is out of control now. Pfizer. All right. Even this was one of the laggards. Well, two of them, if you remember. One's the Widowmaker and Celgene here. Celgene didn't really have that big move yet. Okay, had a nice rally here, breather, and then we started to see some decent size leap buying come into this pullback. All right, so dated calls a year or two out. And then little by little now these spec sweepers are starting to chew on. You know what I mean? They're chewing on some weeklies. We saw a little more today. And like I said, that's when momentum starts to gather up and this thing, starts to heat up. Even the Gilead, which is probably the toughest of the bunch, you can see there's been a pickup in momentum there. All right, so I mean, where we're at in these things, for me, a lot of these things, the egg has hatched there. Okay, so now what I'm determined to try to figure out and not get too confused by the noise out there and even the sloppiness in flow. Okay, because the overall flow during rotation gets sloppy at times. You're not getting that trend move or that trend day in flow where the board is all green with call buying, because there's pockets of the market that are weak and put sweepers are going to look to take advantage of it. Again, today a good example was a lot of tech related stuff. Retail. Okay, retail saw some money come out of it today. So the flow is sloppy, and I got to make it my business to not let that brush me away or brush me off from looking for some names that they may be rotating into. All right, because like I said, it's been a sneaky rotation initially. And I can tell you that from experience, because a lot of these names, they snuck up on me. Like, for example, Pfizer, I ignore flow in Pfizer throughout most of my career. You see some buying in Pfizer, you don't get excited about that. Now, if I knew, that it was the prelude to something of this caliber, I'd be singing a different tune. All right, but so I'm looking now for signs of rotation, maybe into some stuff that hasn't moved or some stuff maybe that's consolidating off a prior move, anything to that account. Okay. Today I didn't see much, and here's the best way. If you guys are members on private Twitter or in the room, the best way, in my opinion, to keep tabs on that, one, that the top bets, okay, every day, you guys know, at the close I post things like this here, okay, and one of them I haven't done it yet, the top bets. So in my opinion, they're the top orders on the day. All right, and to pay attention to maybe patterns of buying in particular names. So in other words, you see a couple of healthcare or biotech names on there, right? Again, take notice. Keep an eye on the group. Keep an eye on any additional flow that comes in, not just to those names, but into the sector. All right, and that's really how I try to get a grasp on, where the money may be rotating early on. All right, so we'll start from there. Today, as a whole, there wasn't much buying that piqued my interest as far as any new activity. The only thing I bought today, I'm actually already in some calls. I traded it. I have a longer term position that I held. So I added some Jan calls to this, QRTEA. This is QVC from what I'm told. I think it's more of a story type play. In other words, somebody's making a bet, maybe something goes on within the company, more than a sector bet, but what the hell do I know? All right. And what happened initially, you had some really aggressive activity into these lows. The sharpest of that activity was out in April, but they also played some shorter term stuff. That's why I traded it and also bought some April calls. You had a nice move off the lows. You could see little breather here. And today they hammered Jan calls and a small little add-on in November. All right, so this is what the stock looks like. This was the action of the day, in my opinion. And you can see it. Again, the example I was giving you in some of those healthcare names, okay, again, this might not be a sector rotation, but you can see where I like to start initially paying attention to the flow, even if I'm not buying it. Understand? Everybody thinks when you see something interesting, you got to buy it. All right, we don't have to be foolish about it. I mean, you see action, even though you may not want to put money to work in the name, it's worth paying attention to. But this is where I like to start paying attention. Most of the charts, most of the patterns look similar to this. Okay, so he got some aggressive selling, finds a bottom. You see, having trouble still finding any momentum to the upside. And the flow starting to pick up here. All right, so that today was the top bet out there. Oh, here's another name that might be a candidate that some of you may be interested in. US Steel, X. X went from dog to the hottest stock on the face of the earth to dog in what? A couple of years? Right? And I'm talking about drastic shift. I'm talking about absolute dog poop to stud back to dog poop. All right. And here's another example of how the noise out there, the news is totally useless. Okay. If you remember, every time Trump mentioned the tariff word, X would catch algo sweepers, call buyers, see some momentum pop, given the impression that tariffs would be good for all the steel names, right? You guys remember that? It wasn't that long ago. And at the same time, you had strength in the steel sector. The group was hot. Fast forward, tariffs have been weighing on groups, across the marketplace here. And the one group, the one sector that was supposed to benefit the most, so they said, was steel. And these things have been a disaster. A disaster. Okay, so that's what I'm saying. When we're talking about the news that CNBC is pumping down our throats every day, it's usually factored into these things, good and bad. And so here we are now. X, again, can't find any buying. You had a little lift here. Looks like maybe they were putting in the bottom, then rolled over. To me, it resembles the caterpillar a little before she started moving. And yesterday, very light action in, I think it was weeklies, maybe 2 weeks out as well. All right, tiny action for X. We know X could catch big time action. All right. Today, we saw an improvement in the quality, a little more size out in January. All right, so now that gets my interest. Doesn't mean I didn't buy it yet, but gets me interested to take a deeper look into this now. Okay, this is not spec action. This is not, short-term squeeze action, a short maybe hedging his position. This is somebody looking to make a bet with some time, Jans, with some decent size behind it. So now I want to start paying closer attention to this flow, especially when this thing is soft or not doing anything. The caterpillar frustrated a lot of souls before she got out of here. You know, a lot of people she chopped up down here trying to pick the lows. The only way to survive it is if, you kept an eye on it or you were buying with some time. And now she doesn't look half bad. I had a lot better anyway. So X, let me see, do you have the orders on here? So here's the sweep. Basically 5,000 Jan 30s. And we'll take a look at open interest just to see how clean everything was. It looked pretty clean to me. And then you had another order, which was a bigger block, if I'm not mistaken. The 31s, where is that? How come that's not on here? Oh, maybe the total volume was bigger. You're going to have to take my word for it. The 31 calls and the 30s in Jan. All right, so we'll take, anybody like the X? Anybody have any interest in that X? Not me, not me. Everybody, not me. Here you go again, Paul. You're giving me the noise. Union problems. If you know that, Joe Schmo knows that, I know that, the whole world knows it. Again, even if you're not interested, it's worth keeping an eye on here. All right, because again, they buy these things when you least want to buy them. All right, and see, here's the problem: we can't have it both ways. We can't say that we don't want to look at an X down here, okay? Or I'll give you a better example. We don't want to look at a Boeing down here because of the headline risk and the tariff news, okay? But now we want to look at Boeing up here, but we don't want to chase. Then where's the opportunity? You know what I mean? Where's the opportunity? If down here we don't want to start paying attention to the flow because there's a lot of headline risk and tariffs are no good, and up here we don't want to chase, where is the in-between there? And what happens is, a lot of players end up chasing. That's what happens. A lot of players will end up chasing. And then they get caught in the drawdown. It's too vicious, blah, blah, blah. And they get frustrated. So you want to at least keep your eye on names that are starting to see some interesting flow down here that may be forming a bottom. Right? It's one thing if you were catching a falling knife, you want to give it a little bit of time, see if it bottoms out. Do you guys remember how difficult this X was? Well, it felt difficult. If you look back now, it doesn't look too difficult. But when this X got hammered back here, can you guys make that out? Do you see how this looks harmless, but I can tell you how awful it felt? Okay, so here's a recent example in X. Not recent, but back the last time she sold off and saw some flow. You had aggressive selling, okay? Then found the bottom. The news was still awful. You're not going to have good news down here. It's not going to happen. You're not going to feel good about a bet down here, okay? And then little by little, we started to see an uptick in quality call activity. And you would have a pop, and then the next day gave it all back. Okay, pop, next day gave it all back, looked like it was rolling over back to lows. And you can see, like I said, the chart doesn't even do it justice, but this is what it ends up looking like. Doesn't look as bad as it actually felt if you were looking tick by tick or involved in it. Well, little by little, gradually, she found, that low, the lows held up there, the flow improved, and, she started doing her thing. And not only, I'm not even talking about just one bet down here, nailing the lows, and that's it, but it could have been a name, you would focus on pullbacks, right? They were rotating out of stuff and they were coming into steal names, and you could see every dip, unlike prior to that, was getting bought. And if you would buy weakness, you had some nice trades out of it. All right. So that's why, again, the retail names, we talked about that, right? There's a gazillion retail names that look like that. That's why personally I like to start paying attention early. The earlier the better. Like I said, I don't need to buy them, but I need to start paying attention early on in the flow because I hate chasing that much. All right, so X worth keeping an eye on, especially the activity. What else do we see today? Wasn't much out there today. New anyway, nothing new. CZR, that's in the same camp. This is a tough stock in general, just slow mover, really slow mover. These casino plays just have not seen a lick of any positive momentum. But the Caesars continues to attract big time size, and in my opinion, likely going to catch news at some point. That's I think it's catch news, or you're going to play. If you're looking to play Caesars, you're looking to catch news. Otherwise, it's not worth it. There are other casino names that can move a lot more and quicker. There are other things that you could probably find better value if you're just playing for momentum or upside. But there's some big time buying in Caesars. We already know there's a Sharpie involved. We already know he's trying to push the company and to put it up for a sale. When that actually materializes into some decent upside, God knows, but they've been targeting end of this year, beginning of next. That's where a lot of the size has been going of recent. And here is today's bet, 25,000 November 11s. All right, so yeah, and you have the casinos, supposedly Macau, China related. That was the reason they were lower. But look what happened. Look what happened recently. Remember, and here's another example. Okay, not to ramble, but I'm just giving you another example. All right, China, same thing, right? We saw action into the lows. There's been a nice rally there. Now obviously cooling off, and we'll see what happens from this point again. But there are rallies there, and these casinos didn't squeeze barely an inch off even the China rally. All right, another one was Brazil. Remember how awful Brazil looked, right? And we're seeing EWZ sweeps and blah, blah, blah. That's a nice squeeze there without anybody paying attention. Without anybody paying attention. So, I mean, I'm eyeing the casinos every single day. I own some of the Caesars, but every time, win season order, regardless, whether it's out in March or April or whatever, I'm paying attention. But you can see, look at this win. Nonstop selling. Non-stop selling. I don't think this has got to be, this is up there with the worst of them. This is up there with the worst of them, these casinos. Las Vegas Sands, pretty similar. And, honestly, I haven't seen anything to get excited about there besides some size in March and April strikes in win. Nothing closer than that. Nothing where I say, oh, I have to own this thing. I haven't bought any win. But again, like I said, I still eye these things every day off every little sweep just to see when they start looking a little different. Right now, they don't. Not at all. Let's see what other action we got today. So we had the Caesars. You had that QVC. And that's it on the call side. Again, you had, some Johnson & Johnson, stuff like that. no initial activity. IGT, that was a block. I think that was actually tied to stock. Let's see on the sweeper end. PBR, you see this thing? Energy, that's another spot, right? Energy, nobody wanted. PBR, you had Brazil / energy. Nobody really wanted that. Energy as a whole, some really nice moves across the board there. Now they're a bit hot, though. They're a bit hot. They're a bit hot. All these things. Hess. So again, I'm looking to see when they come out of these things, where are they going, rather than trying to find an entry on these things. Let's see what else. You got some weed stocks, caught a little play. That's it. Yeah, the utilities had a strong day. We were talking about that recently because somehow, some way, the utilities as a whole were set up with some bullish sentiment, meaning the retail crowd was a little too bearish. And it was just off this pullback, if you can believe that. So that's had a nice little squeeze here. Two names, PCG. That's one of their go-to utility names. Always tends to find a buyer when they get hot. And you had a little one. What the hell's the name of that symbol? Oh, VST. That caught some crazy action a couple days ago. Caught a little more action today, ripped, and then they started rolling. But look at this move for this little sucker. No news or anything that I heard today. Saw some activity. Got hot, and then they started rolling into the heat. So that's two. Again, utilities you're not going to see. Yeah, there were a couple of them today in the utility sector. I think that was the top group today. You have NRG that always, look at this, that always sees some sort of flow. I'm trying to think of some utilities that catch flow from time to time. AES. And you know what's another thing here too? If you stop and think a little bit here, healthcare, right? Healthcare, big pharma, utilities. You're talking about stuff that's not too bullish in regards to the economy, right? Those are defensive groups. So, but that's what's been hot or heating up here. AESNEE. You got different types of utility names. I think the energy ones may be faring better. I don't know. But again, I would wait and look for action. DYN, I see you guys throwing out there. DYN? Is that still around, Dynergy? Let's see. What? I don't think he's around anymore. I think he got bought out, Paul. DYN. Or merged or something. SEDO, that's an oil name, DO. Yeah, so you got a couple of them. Keep your eyes peeled if you see some action in these things. Some of them can move. I know PCG is a good name to trade off sweeper activity. You could get a decent trade out of it from time to time. Yeah, pharma, healthcare, usually when you see the Johnson & Johnsons of the world doing well, people aren't interested in growth stuff. But again, this hasn't just started. This hasn't just started. So, in my opinion, eventually these things are going to go into some longer consolidation. Money's going to start coming out of there, and they're going to go into other things. Oh, here's another one that probably none of us are interested in. The miners were strong today, but saw some flow into strength. You had quite a few miners from PAAS, Sand. You basically can throw a dart at any of these mid-tier, small cap miners. NEM, Newmont, one of the big guys, saw a little bit of action. You know? So again, just something to keep your eye on here. Yeah, and Ani, I think that's the strangest part about what's going on in this market. It doesn't make sense. The rotations, like you just mentioned, you have Cat and Boeing doing well, and then you have defensive sectors doing well, right? We're just coming off, hot software and hot growth names doing well, and Cat and Boeing were in the shithouse. So it's not making sense. If you ask me, it's almost like it's surgically being done and holding SPY up here. SPY, looking at a chart of SPY doesn't do it justice right now. That's what I mean. If you're trading just SPY, you're feeling a lot better about things in this market, right? You're going to dip. You got bear sentiment reaching a point. They're ready to jump out the window. You get a nice squeeze to new highs. You sell the rip. Everyone's excited, getting cash. Wait for the bears to get all riled up again, like clockwork. But underneath the hood, individual names, you got a lot of beatdowns out there, right? You got a lot of beatdowns for whatever reason. For every stock that's running, you got a lot of names beaten to hell. So and I think that's a good thing ultimately, because again, I remember this in 2016 saying something similar to this. Eventually what happens is when money comes out of the hot stuff, rather than just sitting in cash or shorting everything, they look for places that have already been beaten to hell. And initially becomes a hiding spot, and then people start to look and find value in these things. All right, so again, Facebook, these names deserved. See what Facebook's doing? They deserve to be doing this. I mean, these stocks were machines. They were machines for so long. A lot of you guys were even said eventually there's going to be a time where these things become out of favor. The problem is they haven't really dove into everything out there that's been out of favor for a while. There's a lot of stuff still left out there. A lot of stuff still left. But that's why we got to keep our eyes open. If you guys remember how BMY, how tough it was to buy this thing? You remember? Remember this thing getting hammered? Or any of those? Celgene, Pfizer, all these things got hit hard. And eventually, buyers rotate into these things when they got to get out of the hot stuff. But all in all, I think this rotation, what it does is it keeps those euphoria levels in check, right? How can you be euphoric when, you have a lot of big names looking like this? That's what it is, Paul. It's musical chairs. That's what it feels like. It's musical freaking chairs. It's musical chairs. But the thing is this. Here's what I'm fascinated by. Like I said, I'm fascinated by this. Right? All in all, you got professional selling, hedge fund selling, the works coming into every little green day in this market. Bear markets from sector to sector to sector. And here's where we are right now. Here's where we are. The financials, right? They can get out of their own way. And here's where SPY is right now. Remember the bears would throw, oh yeah, but look how much the Dow is lagging. Right? Eventually the Dow played catch up. Nobody wanted to touch the industrials because of tariffs and trade war. Look at the industrials, guys. Look at them. Look at these things. So it's a beautiful thing. I don't know how they're doing it without manipulation, but it's a beautiful thing. It's keeping sentiment in check. It's difficult for us during these times to find success with individual names, because you got to remain tactical. That's what I'm trying to say. You got to remain tactical. You can't just get used to playing a group and stick with that group and buy dips when the money comes out and they're out of favor and they're rotating elsewhere. Yeah, now, right, AMD, they're coming out of AMD, and you got some money going into Intel. When AMD was going parabolic, Intel went south for the winter, right? Even Micron, right, looked half decent for some of the time today. So that's, the point of the story is, guys, it's tricky here. If you're an SPY ES player, okay, everything is right now, knock on wood, not trying to jinx it, the playbook is the same right now. The playbook is the same until the music stops. And in my opinion, there's no euphoria out there for the music to stop because of the reasons I just showed you guys. But if you're looking to make a play on the overall market, all right, you're looking for any bit of consolidation or pullback. You get a Trump tweet, you get the assistance of news, you get sentiment over the short term, all bared up. That's where you're looking for an entry. Don't worry about being a little bit early. You should expect to be a little bit early. All right. And then when you get that rally and that push higher and that squeeze, and everybody flips to being bullish, and you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. You get the hot squeezeometer, you get a low put to call. As hard as that is, as a trader, that's where you want to look to take chips off the table and wait for that setup again. So it could be applied to the major ETFs, some of the sector ETFs and stuff like that. But individual names, it gets a lot more difficult, for the reasons we just went over pretty in detail here. All right, let me get to, and we even did this on the member webinar over the weekend. I want to see what names you guys are looking at. And this way we can pull them up. We can look and see if we got Niners in the way. I could give you a little insight of what the sector looks on the sentiment side. And, maybe we share ideas amongst each other. All right, so a little one by one, throw some names, and we'll see what everybody got here. And that's how we'll take that to the end. All right, Xilinx. Again, here's an example of how I screwed up. Xilinx was catching some decent action, and I assumed the semiconductors were a tough play, right? The semis were selling off. It was very difficult. I didn't really want to trade something that tough, but I guess Xilinx is a different semi. I don't know. And this is what adds. This is what adds to the complication here. Okay? Here's a perfect example. Xilinx, where the semiconductor has been a real tough group and names have gotten annihilated outside of AMD. You got this thing that's just pressing new highs and seeing some decent action. Look, running through some nines in consolidation. So here, my opinion, you guys know how I look at it. I wouldn't want to start a position up here. I would want some consolidation, a dip, and then I would look for flow into that. But you've had a real nice move in the Xilinx, and I kind of ignored it. DWDP. This goes with the chemical names as a whole. Here's another group, Alex, that I think you can put with casinos where they haven't really seen much of any momentum. This Dow DuPont, we saw it catch some flow and then put like maybe a week of gains together. You could see here, okay? And then all of a sudden runs into this 9, and look at the selling that comes into this. I think last week there were like 3-4 downgrades in the sector, in the chemical sector. All right. So again, here you got Dow DuPont, a little bit of rally for a week. You're looking for more, and I can't blame you if you were, right? Thinking maybe you have a decent setup for more reward than just this. Look at this. Just falls apart here. All right. But I think this is one of the groups that may, still have some life to come into it. My favorite in the group is this Axta. And same thing applies there. All right. Only difference we're seeing, we saw flow stem down here. Okay. And I think the reason why I like this, the best of them, I think you have the outside chance of catching some sort of news with it, because you got spec action there, you got Sharpie action out in April, so something worth keeping an eye on here. But you can see right now, any momentum, this thing got hot 2-3 days here off no news, right? Just a squeeze, and look at this, right back to where she started. Didn't waste any time. So still a tough group, but I like Axta with time, especially if you could play it that way. Let's see, aim at. Yeah, trying to find a bottom. Trying to find a bottom. You got this 9 here, right? Not much of a rally off it. Trying to hold the lows. Unreal. No rally in these things. But the semis, some of the semis are a bit interesting. We were talking about that on the Saturday webinar too, off the Intel news and some flow there in the group. Again, I wouldn't jump to own these things. I would keep an eye on it though, and I would pay attention to the flow from here. Qualcomm has been one of the better ones. Strong name. Qualcomm always catches action, but still bullish activity there, and you can see doing her thing, little pullback and starting to grind its way higher from there. DB, man, I don't play DB. I don't play DB. There's the financials as a whole are tough enough, let alone trying to catch this DB. But what I'm seeing here, you had this niner on the bottom there, set up a little bottom, nice little rally, and then look at that, red niner here just slammed. What are you on, day 5? So if you got a couple more days of this thing hanging out down there, you might have a little bottom. CRM, it's like, you go to the well until it stops type of thing. But it's going to stop one day, But yeah, these dips in CRM, look, do I need to say more? See, what I think is going to happen in this CRM, what usually happens, you get a dip, you'll get a pullback, you'll get a little relief rally, and you'll have players assume automatically new highs again, and then that'll roll over. And I think that will be, something different than what we've been seeing in this CRM. See, like here, you got it roll over, find some buying, and just marches to new highs. After the little rally, this thing rolls back over, and you have that lower high set up where things act a little different. So something to keep an eye on. But again, what I worry about these things, they're long in the tooth. Even though this is a little more orderly than some of the ones we've been seeing out there, they've been rallying for a long, long time. I remember the CRM was a tough stock to trade. Now it's been a cash register. Back here, and this is all I'm talking about, CRM eventually is going to need to go into something like this. All right? It's only a matter of when. there'll be something like this. And that's where people get frustrated enough to where they give up, and then the real rally that comes out of it sets up a monster. But this is coming. This is coming. CRM can't do this forever. The market doesn't work that way. So that's why I get a little nervous, guys. And not just nervous, I want to be smart about it, where you see this is obviously not the start of a move. This move is a little long in the tooth. So if you're going to play it here, you want to be more tactical. That's all. You want to be quicker. You want to buy weakness. You get the rip. You want to sell the rip. You want to try not to get greedy with the whole bulk. Maybe let some profits run, that sort of thing. But this thing, you don't find much better than CRM right now on the long side. What can SRPT? I don't know, but we saw a sweep today in SRPT. I think it was weeklies though, right? I don't know. I haven't been following the stock SRPT up here. I didn't even know she pulled back until I pulled it up today. Anybody know we can help Gordon out? What happened to SRPT last 2 days? Downgrade or probably some sort of downgrade or something. Upgrade? What do you mean upgrade? No, why is the stock down the last 2 days? He's asking. SRPT. SRPT has data this week. Tomorrow. SRPT has data coming tomorrow is the word. So be careful there. Yeah, so we saw our weekly sweeper today, rolling the dice into the data. All right, but yeah, these bios, SRPT is one of the better ones, but you got to be careful with the data no matter what. FCX, that's a good question. I don't really have much of an opinion. I was looking at it today a little bit. I've been asked about FCX. FCX can catch a lot of flow. So you really, you really got to see like a missile to get interested in FCX or just the flow. Okay. But sometimes she'll line up technically. You see, an uptick in activity or something else you look at. What I didn't like is, again, you had a nice reversal down here at the lows and a pretty decent rally up basically 8-9 straight days. Ran into the niner, and this is what you would be worried would happen. Okay, but now it's doing that. So now I think if you're interested, it's worth paying attention to again, right? If you asked me a week ago, I would have said wait for this, and now this is here. So I would now pay attention to FCX, see if any interesting flow comes in. But it is an active name. Yeah, it's a very slow mover. There's a lot of hands in the pot. So every time it gets a little rally, there's some selling, that sort of thing. But she's got upside potential. Copper's been out of the loop for a while now, right? We saw that sentiment-wise, copper was disgusting, has bounced off the lows. I remember, a lot of you remember, the one order in FCX that was really good looking. It was like, I think it was 2 of them $1 million sweeps, and it came into this consolidation right near the end. And then you had this crazy move. But you had a lot of pent-up energy there. So that's what I'm saying. Worth keeping an eye on, especially if we start to see an uptick in activity here. You got another name today with more of the Brazil type, but Vail. We're going to quietly look at this move. Very quietly. So worth now keeping. I like it better here, Rory, than I don't know. You probably heard me say needed a breather. This is what you wanted to see. If you were worried about this, This is what you need to see. Now it's only a matter of, does it make lower lows? Can it hold this low and find some buyers here? That's what you're looking for. Let's get to some. Oh yeah, I see a couple of you guys mentioned Vail. Yeah, Melly caught a couple of sweeps. Every time I look, the stock is up like 18 bucks, and on the chart it doesn't really look like it even moved. But yeah, you had a couple of sweeps in this Melly. Several people in the room were interested in it. So we were looking at this. You see the purple shaded area there. You had sellers get a bit exhausted there, right? Held the lows. They tried to flush it again, couldn't do it, and little by little has been grinding. A grind for Melly's like up and down 50 bucks, but has caught a couple sweeps. I think 2-3 sweepers since these lows. So interesting. I wouldn't chase. I would wait. If you missed that and you're looking for an entry, wait for one of these days, like yesterday. If you get it, you get it. But you got to be careful chasing this thing. This thing moves around a lot. What else we got? Yeah, well, what happens is Melly caught a buyer. I think it was up like $7 on the day, closed strong. But if you look, the following day, it's down almost every single day. You know what I mean? Say like here, I think here's where it caught that sweep, was up, and then the next day, look at this, gave it all back. So that's what I'm saying. Don't chase this. Maybe tomorrow you get a little, you get a pull and you can find an entry. Always worth waiting for a pull when a rally has gone away from you. CVX. I'm not a big CVX guy, Alex, because again, there's just so many hands in the pot there. You know what I mean? It's widely held and a lot of analyst coverage and all that stuff. I like a Hess better, even flow wise. They support every little dip and have been in this Hess. If you want even more of an under the hood type name, I like this CRC. But again, a lot of these names need a breather. A lot of these names need a breather. Do I play ETP? Yeah, I had a decent size, a pretty nice size position in ETP when it caught all that action into the lows. This turned out nice. I haven't played it here though. But yeah, I play this name. ETE, I played a couple of times, nothing recent. But yeah, I'll play these names. The only thing on they're slow. They're slow. But sometimes on a risk reward basis, you don't mind that. You have more control over it. Like this ETP, they annihilated, you guys remember, into the lows down here. And it was so gradual, but, little by little put a nice rally together. Yeah, again, charts don't do it justice. Like you look here, this ETP look like, oh, what a smooth ride. You ask any one of us who are in these ETP calls, we're pulling our hair out of our head. IWM, I think if you're looking to take a shot on a possible rotation into next week, I think IWM is a good candidate, even if you're a little early. I mean, it's spec action. Let's call it what it is. It's spec action. Somebody was out there buying all the way down today. Mostly next week calls. So, and I see why it's worth a shot if he's looking to do what I think he's doing. Now look, got a little ahead of itself to the downside here. Even if this thing is lower tomorrow and tomorrow ends up being a reversal day, he's still going to make money on those things. And he's risking, how much are they, Paul? What were they? 30 cents? They were cheap, right? Well, I think some of them he bought higher in the morning. The ones in the morning, obviously, he top ticked them. But throughout the day, 21 cents. Yeah. So they're cheap enough to take a shot, but he's rolling the dice. You know what I mean? He's taking a shot. I like it. I think it's worth a shot. It's worth a shot. Even yeah, it's worth a shot, Paul. Listen, when you're buying these 20-cent calls, what you got ahead of you. You're looking for a nice percentage gain on them, and they did it. They did their job. Maybe you get a little lucky. You nail the lows, and you get a nice squeeze back to the middle of this range. And then who's better than you? But they also, they go down. They go down often. A lot of them do click though, and when they click, they're nice. For those of you who didn't play it, keep an eye on it tomorrow. I think you got another morning of weakness tomorrow. They're definitely worth a shot. They're definitely worth a shot. Then you get a little squeeze. And IWM, by the way, again, talking about rotation, this is the biggest rotation that's going on right now. You have basically was at the heat of the trade war before this NAFTA deal got, finalized in a way. But at the heat of the trade rhetoric, you had a massive shift out of IWM and software, the stuff they rushed into that were tariff proof, if you remember, and into all the tariff names. That's what happened. So now, Paul, for an example here, right? Boeing has gone cuckoo. Look at this Boeing. Maybe she needs to come in and breathe a little bit. That's likely where you see IWM bounce back. You know what I mean? Like a mean reversion play. So that's kind of what we may see happen anyway. You would think. I would hate it for these things to just go nuts from here. That would be the worst. That would be the worst. But you see how quick anybody in this Boeing, I know a couple people in the room who were playing it a little longer term. Anybody in this Boeing are you, Gordon? Nice. Oh, so a couple of you are. Oh, a few of you are. Because this sneaks up at you. It could sneak up on you at times. This was a telltale strand. Call spread and common. Very nice. And you had a nice setup consolidation wise. See, and looking to buy in the consolidation, at least for me, I don't mind buying into consolidation as long as I'm buying the lower end of the range and not chasing the move. As long as I'm not buying up here and I'm looking to take advantage of this pull. You know what I'm saying? That sort of thing. And then you got cushion, because when she finally goes, if you have the time, you have some nice cushion now to where you can make some decent money. What names did I miss? Any other names in other groups? What about the defense names? Anybody eyeing any defense names? Have they all been strong? There was one name I saw in particular today. Was it this one? No, what the heck? Was it this one? I think it was this one. So this is what happened, this ROK. You guys know this name? Rockwell Automation. So here's the story here. Same thing, right? Selling, tariffs, go to zero, relentless selling, nonstop. Finally finds a bottom, little squeeze, back, double bottom, and then you got what looks like now firming up. Just there's a lot of volatility in between. So what happened is they hit this thing around here initially, and you had a crazy move. Ran into this 9. Now you got a little breather here. Still higher than the initial activity levels, Those of you in the room can check the search. You'll see what I'm talking about. But you got a nice little breather here, and if you were looking for that, you caught some Jan flow today. Nothing super aggressive, some decent size Jan flow. But she looks like she could be setting up here. Highs aren't that far away. What group is this considered in? Is this a down name? What is this? Rockwell Automation. Robotics. Huh. Interesting. Something to keep an eye on. Some Jan flow today. And I think it was Jan close to the money. They laid some wood too. I think the 190s. So we'll keep an eye on that name. LMT. That's a defense name. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, yeah. See? Looks similar. Look how they just bottomed out, firmed up, and approaching highs again. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. That was a vicious correction too, right? This correction was harsh. Damn it. What's the Honeywell? Yeah, I look at that from time to time. Wow. Wow. Damn. I saw even like the UTX looks good. They all look good. Look at UTX. Rap Bastards is right. What about anybody who follows the nines? Do we have any nines out there we should be paying attention to? That's what had me a little uneasy over the past, well, since we hit the new highs. When was it? Last week? A lot of red niners, not too many green niners out there. I'm not a big fan of that. Any green nines? Anybody see any green nines out there? Those of you who are watching nines with me these days? Niners on the intraday, Paul. Yeah, yeah. I like these Niners too. I like them. When you use them right, you use them with sentiment and flow. You know what I mean? You don't treat them as gospel like you do, Paul. You're looking for a certain setup. You get right, exactly. You get the 9 you were looking for, and then that's your signal. They've been fantastic. They really have. And those of you who have no idea what the hell we're talking about, basically, if we're looking for an entry in a name, and we think maybe there's more selling, or it still needs to form a bottom, blah blah blah. We see some flow there. That 9 is that confirmation. Maybe this is the spot of entry to start putting some money to work. A lot of us use it for intraday purposes too. You can see today in ES, I think there were only red niners today in ES. Nothing on the, let me see. Oh yeah, late, but that was late. So here we had this in ES today. Oh yeah, I think you're talking about this today, Paul, right? The double top niner right there, where she found trouble. And you can see this was tough resistance. Came back, tried to break, through that zone again. It was just too tired. And then whoop. And here too, this came a little late. Otherwise, a lot of us would have been looking to play something. But you had this niner down here. Even though there's a little more selling after that, you can see they started to get tired. And then you can see, a little grind up, raise some stops. Whether you're in names or not. And not only that, it helps us out too, Paul. You could vouch. You're in a name, you're worrying about the market rolling over, you're losing profits, and you see a red niner like that. It helps you, make some moves. MU double top niner yesterday. On the, oh, intraday you're talking, right? This here. Yeah, 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 yeah. The 13 is a different count from what I'm told. It's a lot of people use it more for longer term trend stuff. Yeah, I ignore it, Ani. I ignore it. Ani, you know me. That you can take these. You could take DeMark, any DeMark stuff, and if you start getting into every little detail, you can go bananas. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff in there, a lot of stuff. But what, and this was actually a good buddy of mine who I ignored. I told you the story. I ignored for so long. I worked with this guy. He's 10 times a better trader than I am. But that I just block out a lot of noise. But he's been telling me how the nines work so well with sentiment and flow that I need to pay attention to it. To the point where he came to my office, physically put them on my screen, and then ever since then, I now I have an idea of what he's talking about. Now I have an idea of what he's talking about. It's just an added signal to the stuff we already pay serious attention to, Ani. An example. This nine here on the SPY, was it a coincidence it came when sentiment was a little bit too hot? You know what I mean? So it's just added confirmation. Listen, relax. The market needs to breathe a little bit. It's not the end of the world, and then just allow things to set up again, just to take it easy. And for the most part, gets the job done. It gets the job done. Again, I want to make clear I'm not using strictly nines and nothing else. But I feel like it works so well with flow and sentiment because it's on the same page. Yeah, and Paul, what you're mentioning, I've had a lot of people approach me and say stuff like that. That the nines, in addition to what they're looking at, on their end, as far as technicals, whatever it may be, has worked well. So that's when I think it's worth paying attention to. That's where I think it's worth paying attention to. Like I always say, if you're looking for exact buy sell signals and you're forcing a signal out of something just because your bias is pushing you that way. Where are you, Rory? What platform? Are you Thinkorswim? Oh, Canada. Shoot, Canada. You can't get Trading View? Can't Trading View? Doesn't Trading View do that? TD Advanced Dashboard. I'm not sure, Rory. I'm not sure. Keep looking, you'll find it. It's popular, really popular. Trading View's got like 65 different indicators. Yeah, yeah. The mark, but sometimes they word it differently. Like Thinkorswim, it's called sequence counter. Yeah, Valerie's saying she's in Canada and she uses Trading View. This is Trading View. And Trading View, you can use the free version, and I still think you can access it. Yeah, so give it a shot, Raw. You're not going to get real-time intraday quotes and stuff like that, but it'll still get the job done if you're looking at dailies and daily charts and stuff. Gordon saying he posted a good paper on it in the room just now for anybody who's a member. Thank you, Gordon. I'll take a peek. Yeah, Valerie, I got the premium version as well. I like TradingView. I like it. The Thinkorswim charts I can't get used to. This is nice and clean. I see what I need to see. For some reason, I get mixed up on Thinkorswim, but I'm just not used to it. That's why. All right, guys. So to wrap it up, simply put, again, the individual names are tricky here. If you're looking for a little more than just a quick trade, just make sure you have enough time. even if you think you have a decent setup, give yourself enough time just in case you're early and there's additional weakness. But pay attention to the rotation out there because it's vicious. But I will say this, okay? Let me give you a little positive note to end the webinar. There's a possibility, okay, that this is our correction. Whether it's hard to believe, but this could very well be the correction, okay? This drastic rotation where the markets are sort of just grinding, chopping around, and underneath the hood, they're correcting some stuff. And if they start to rotate in a big way and start to lift a lot of these groups that have been neglected for a long time, that's when things are going to get a lot more smooth, and we'll see it in the breadth. I mean, you look at the breadth right now, right? Look at the internals of the market. They've been awful, awful. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. So I think things should get better. One way or another, they should get better. And it shouldn't be, too far away. So we'll see what happens. All right. If anybody's new, go to wallstreetjesus.com. You'll find some more information about everything we spoke about here. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Joe. Everybody, thanks for coming by. I'll see the rest of you tomorrow in the room. Be good, everybody.